In this video, we're going to learn how to use Excel to analyze a loan. For example, suppose you borrow $315,000 to purchase a home using a 30-year conventional mortgage at 4.12% APR. This is the annual percentage rate. Compute the monthly payment size, create an amortization table, and determine the finance charge. To get started, I'm going to first enter the column headings for the amortization table. My first column is going to be for the months. The second column will be for the payments. In the third and the fourth columns, I'm going to break the payment down into the part that goes to pay interest and the part that goes to pay towards the principal. And in the last column, I'm going to enter the balance so we can keep track of how much we still owe on the home. I'm going to start the table with a month 0, which represents the situation right after we've taken out the loan, but before we make the first payment. At this point in time, we still owe $315,000. We can format the $315,000 using dollars and cents by using the currency format. So click on the $sign, and then it'll format it as currency. It changed it to all pound signs, and this is because Excel doesn't have enough room to display the entire number. So I need to double click between the column headings of E and F in order to widen the column. And now we're ready to fill out the months column. This was a 30-year loan, and we have 12 monthly payments every year. 30 times 12 is equal to 360. So I'm going to need a total of 360 rows in the table. Right below month 0, I'm going to put month 1, and then I'm going to use autofill to create column numbers going all the way down to 360. To do that, use the white cross pointer in Excel and select both of the months, 0 and 1. So click on the 0 and then continue to drag the mouse through the 1. You should see a dark outline around both of those numbers. In the lower right hand corner, you'll see a little tiny black square. Hover the mouse over it until you see a black cross. This is called the fill handle. Drag the fill handle down until you reach 360. And then scroll back up to the top of the table. To compute the payment, I'm going to use Excel's payment function, which is under the Insert Function tool. Click in the payment cell where I want to enter the first payment, the payment for month 1, and then click on FX for Insert Function. Set the category to Financial, and then scroll down until you find the PMT function. Press OK. Now you have a dialog box that opens up, and we can enter the loan parameters. The first loan parameter is the interest rate, and you can see that down here at the bottom. Whatever field you happen to be clicked in, Excel will give you some information about how to complete that field. So I can see that this first one is the interest rate per period. In this case, the interest rate per month. Our interest rate is 4.12%, which we can enter using the percent symbol, or we could enter it as a decimal as 0.0412. To make this a monthly interest rate, I need to divide by 12. In the next field, we enter the total number of payments for the loan, which is 30 times 12, or 360. If you enter 30 times 12, then Excel will compute the 360, or you could enter the 360 directly. In the next cell, I enter the present value, or the principal, which is $315,000. There's a little problem with doing it this way, because Excel computes the payment size as a negative number. This is because every time money changes hands in Excel, it changes sign. To fix this and get a positive payment size, just enter the present value, or the principal, as a negative number. And then the payment size will come out to be positive. Again, I don't have enough room to see the payment size, so I'm going to double click between the column headings of B and C. The payment size is going to remain the same every month, so I can just simply autofill this by double clicking on the tiny square in the lower right hand corner. And now we're going to be entering formulas into the first row. To compute the interest, we take the monthly interest rate of 4.12% divided by 12 and multiply by the outstanding balance, which at this point is $315,000. We need to do it using a cell reference. That balance is in column E, row 2, so I can type in E2, or I can just simply click on the 315,000 and Excel will enter the cell reference for me. Press enter, and now we have the interest. Again, I can't see the number, so I need to widen the column between C and D by double clicking between the column headings. And then I need to compute the amount that went to pay down on the principal. Take the payment size and subtract the amount I paid to interest, and I need to do it using cell references. So type equals, the payment size is in cell B3, and then I need to subtract the interest, which is in cell C3, and hit enter. And now I have the amount from the first payment that actually went to pay down on the principal. To calculate the new balance, I need to take the old balance and subtract the amount that was paid to the principal, and I need to do this using cell references. Type equals to create a formula, and then put in the cell reference for 315,000, which is E2. Subtract the amount paid towards the principal, which is in cell D3. Hit enter. And now we're ready to autofill this and complete the rest of the rows. And what autofilling will do for us is to copy those formulas down to the bottom of the table, but using different numbers every time. Since all three columns are connected, the interest depends on the balance, the principal depends on the payment and the interest, and the new balance depends on the old balance. We need to autofill them together. So to do this, highlight all three cells. So use the white cross mouse pointer and then drag it through all three cells, the interest, the principal, and the balance. You should see a dark outline around all three cells. And then double click the fill handle, the tiny black square in the lower right hand corner. This should complete the amortization table. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom to make sure that we did it right. As you can see, our final balance is 0, so we in fact completed the amortization table correctly. Widen column D by double clicking on the boundary between the headings D and E. And now that we have the amortization table, we can compute the finance charge, which is the sum of all the interest that we paid. The interest is in column C. So to find the finance charge, go down to the bottom of column C and then use AutoSum, which uses this Greek letter sigma to represent summation. Click on it, hit enter, and you can see that we paid $234,263.43 in interest, and that would be our finance charge. Now the last thing I'm going to do is to plot the interest and the principal over time so you can see how they change over the life of the loan. To do this, I need to select the months column and the interest column, which are separated by a column. They're called non-adjacent columns. In order to select the non-adjacent columns, I'm going to need to hold down the control button on the keyboard, and then I'm going to select all the months, starting with month 1 and ending with 360. Keep holding down the control button and then select all the interest payments, starting with month 1 and going down to 360. When you're finished, scroll back to the top of the table and then click the Insert tab to locate the graphics, and then we're going to create a scatter plot. So go to Scatter, and then you can select any of those plots. I'm going to choose the Scatter with Smooth Lines. Press on it, and now I have the interest being plotted over time. I would also like to add the principal to this plot. So to do that, I'm going to right click on the plot area and choose Select Data. The first thing I'm going to do is to edit my first data series. I'm going to click on it, click Edit, and I'm going to give it a better label. I'm going to call it Interest. Press OK. And now it shows up in the legend as interest, which is better. I know that the blue curve represents interest. And then I'm going to add a second data series for the principal by pressing on the Add button. I'm going to enter the series name, which is principal. And then I need to select the X values, which are the months. and the Y values, which is the principal. You just scroll back up and select all the principals starting from month 1 and going down to month 360. And then press OK and press OK again. Scroll up to the top so I can see my graph. And now you can see what happens to the interest and the principal over the life of the loan. At the beginning of the loan, most of your payment goes to pay interest, and that is represented by the blue curve. And then by the end of the loan, very little of your payment goes to pay interest. The principal does the opposite. At the beginning of the loan, very little of your payment goes to pay down towards the principal, and towards the end of the loan, most of your payment goes to pay down towards the principal. This makes it rather difficult to accumulate equity in your home during the early years of the loan, because most of your payment is actually going to pay interest.